Awesome.
How are
Just a few technical
you?
difficulties. For some reason, Instagram had said that it was
Oh.
not allowed to use my camera. Okay, sure.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, it's one of those things where sometimes, like every time I go live in this, I feel
Something
like
new.
there's some
Yeah.
kind of little glitch. But I
Yeah.
just have to say, like, that's life. This is the weird thing. Everything is updating. We're updating
That's,
sometimes every day,
that's
multiple
it.
times a day, right? So I feel you. I want to, just because I need to say this, I haven't really said this out loud. I hosted this really wonderful webinar today on
What are you
that question we
tolerating?
talked about two
Yes.
weeks
Yeah.
ago. What are you tolerating? Right. And so I'm a paper girl, right? So everything gets written on paper and I've got it all on the desk and I'm about to like finish up the outline and be done. It's like 9:15, 30 minutes. I'm cruising. I spilled my coffee, the entire damn thing across the entire damn desk with all the papers and all
Yeah,
the things.
I
And I
guess.
said,
So, all
okay,
right
all
then.
right, well.
That's how it is today.
And there was a moment where I was just like, can I just put some Rage Against the Machine on and like feel all of this? And then there was also the moment of thinking about things like this, the Instagram lives where
No,
things
that's why they're
don't
fun
go
because
as
they're live
planned,
and you get to
right?
watch people go, well,
But
that didn't work.
that's
And you know
life.
what's interesting? And that actually,
Exactly.
that's exactly the
Exactly.
card that I had for today, for me. And so I thought that I would just bring it over because this is really the card for this exact situation. What? How's crazy, right? And
Isn't
it's
I would say it's
not.
crazy, but it's the most expected
Exactly.
thing when we're
So
paying
the
attention.
card is the
So,
Fool,
okay.
right?
Oh my
The
goodness.
Fool, right?
Okay.
You see him, he's about to go off a cliff, right? He's about to like lift off and have no
Yep.
more connection with material world. He's going to be in sort of free fall. Who knows what's happening
Okay.
next? But you see, he's looking off and up. He's looking up. He couldn't care less because he knows no matter what happens, it's the perfect thing, right? And the message of this card is that you're always supported by the universe, no matter what is going on. You can't get into your Instagram. That is part of the support for you, the universe, from the universe for
Yep.
you. If there's something going on, it seems, right? We have sort of a limited view, right? We don't like have this huge cosmic
Yep.
view often. And then it seems like, well, this thing went wrong and that thing went wrong. But actually what it did was sort of give you guardrails. So you don't go off in that direction because maybe you would have kept going in that direction and that's not the right direction. That's not where the universe is telling you. This is not where your joy and your inspiration are. This is not where your beauty, your balance, your order. This is not where things
I
are
love it.
just going to roll for you in a simple, easy, fun, light way, right? That's the
Yes. And I just forgot for a moment
it's
that
our
that was your card. Of course it's our card, but I'm like, yes, yes, yes. It's the simple little
yes,
things like a spilled cup of coffee, right? Like I have in my head the teacher
yes,
in me, the A+ student, the high performer says, I need to have this PowerPoint. It all needs to be colored properly. I need to have a
yeah,
handout. There needs to be all the things, right? But I hadn't really done all of those things because it's actually not that important,
yeah,
right? Like it's the content. So it was such an interesting and deliberate thing because I was actually like grinding and churning
yeah,
trying to get myself to do this stuff. And I really like I spilled the coffee. I kid you not, there was a Rage Against the Machine
yep,
moment. I'm getting, but the practice is getting those moments shorter. I honored it and then I cleaned it up and I said, okay, so I obviously don't have time to
yeah,
do this. And I had to go through my own process. Is this your thing, Michaela? Is this right for you? Is this in
yeah,
your lane? Is this how you want to move forward? And it's over colors and an outline that I
yep,
was going to hand
yep.
out, right? When I look back at what I did and I'm like, I'm so glad I
Absolutely.
didn't
How
spend
many
that
times in
time.
our lives have we said, gee, did I waste my time doing this extra thing? I remember
Yes.
at the expo where you and I met, I didn't know what
Mm-hmm.
to expect. I didn't know what I was going to exactly do. I knew I was going to bring my cards and put them out and invite
Yep.
people over, but I didn't know anything else. That was honestly, that was enough. But I thought I had to
Right.
have this. That's exactly it.
But that's what you
Exactly. It
do.
was like, I don't know. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. I brought all this stuff. I brought it all home because it was like I didn't really need hardly any of it. And there are a couple things that came to my mind while you were talking. One of them was something that one of my spiritual teachers says to me very often, which is that success with stress is bondage. So if you have to stress yourself to have success in a certain place, that is keeping you in that stressful place to be able to go further. You cannot, it's like, that's the energy that you needed to make it happen, then that's the energy you're going to need to make it go forward. So you have to decide, do you want to have this kind of stress? Then keep going in this direction. If this is how you want to succeed, and keep working. But if you decide like you did, you said, I'm going to stop here and reevaluate this moment and see, do I need this thing that I think I so desperately need to make something happen, right? And you know,
that was the irony of what are you tolerating? And I was tolerating this urge to check the list, right? Because that's what you do when you host a webinar. But that's maybe not what I do. And maybe I will, but like today, that wasn't what I was doing. And it was, I laughed, you know, I'm cleaning up spilled coffee and kind of laughing at, well, I mean, I literally am going to have to just do it. And that's that. And I tell these stories, you know, because we are human and we are experiencing it. And as I'm about to help other people on their journey to figure out what they're tolerating, I'm here like tolerating my own messes. And it's just to put us in position, right? Like we're all on this journey figuring it out. And I showed up today going, oh my gosh, what card will she pull for me today? I wonder if it will have something to do with kind of releasing and just, you know, accepting wild abandon and trusting in myself that I have enough, that I have what it takes.
Right. And then also the other part of this card, which is sometimes a little bit harder to feel, right? Or to allow yourself to feel, because we can feel it. It's just that do we allow ourselves to feel it? Is that we are always supported by the universe, right? All of these little things are part of the support of the universe, so that we can learn to get over it. We can get the strength to get over it. We can get the energy to get over it. Like if you're sitting in front of the TV just eating bonbons and really bored and have no real energy, right? You don't have energy to make anything happen in your life, right? But sometimes you need the energy, whether it comes from frustration or anger or resentment. You need the energy. You don't need the label, right? You don't need to be to go into that negative vibration, but you might need that amount of energy to get you off the couch, put down the bonbons, and walk out the door to do something else in your life, right? So the question becomes, how is this, whatever it is that's happening, how is this perfect? How can this be seen as perfect? How is this thing helpful to me?
I love that.
How is this because perfect? The universe is being supportive of you at all times. It's not saying I'm going to support you now and then I'm not going to support you another time. It might look different, but it depends whether or not it's trying to, how it's trying to bring you back to yourself. Have you chosen to go on a path that brings joy and beauty and balance, order and inspiration? If you have, if you are able to hear your higher guidance and go on that path, then the universe is going to start opening doors and bringing paths to you, bringing options to you. And your question is, which one's the easy, simple, fun, beautiful, orderly one, right? That's your question.
Well, yeah, absolutely. How do you get there in the least restrictive manner, right? And that's why, you know, I've got this question on my brain because I spent all morning talking about it. But when I ask what you're tolerating, it's not just about, it's about getting to understand what you want, right? But that's a harder, bigger question. Because what does that mean? Am I talking about 3,000 foot? Am I talking about 3 years, tomorrow? And so when we look into what are you tolerating, it's to find those, I don't want this, I don't like that, there's such a because all that negative talk is going into the universe. All of that negative talk is being owned here. And it gets very confusing. How the heck is the universe supposed to know what I do and do not want if I'm always just shouting about X, Y, and Z, you know? So it's the idea of, yes, let's get frustrated. Get really frustrated about how much time you spend doing the dishes. Get really frustrated about that. And then say, you know, what the heck am I going to do about it? Because we do have agency. We can change that. And if I take all that I hate dishes out of my conversation, the universe has way less to focus on, and it gets to really understand what it is I do want. What I did want was my time. I wanted my freedom. I did want a clean kitchen. I still do, right? But what I wanted was freedom, joy, and growth. But what I was putting out was
Yeah.
hatred and frustration
Yes.
and pity, right? Like in that vision of like, I hate dishes. So it's like,
Yeah.
let's stop
Yeah.
mixing up the signals, right? Because the universe does want what we want. The universe is inspired in the same way. But if we're focusing on those little frustrations, those big frustrations, it's
Yeah, if
hard
we
to
start
see where to
calling,
go.
yeah, exactly. If we start calling
Anyway,
any
so
moment wrong, that's where it starts. When we think that this moment right now where I'm frustrated is wrong, or this moment where I'm doing the dishes instead of writing my novel, or being a great speaker or whatever it is, that's wrong. That's not it. There's no moment that's wrong. There's no decision that's wrong. It might be that a decision you make will bring you not towards beauty, balance, and order, right? It might be that it brings you towards something not inspiring for you,
negative
right?
consequences
Exactly.
are real.
But that doesn't mean that that's
Right.
not your path, right? It's just that you haven't come back. There are two options. You always have the option of going down the inspirational path, or the option of going down the I hate my life path, right? But you are eventually, no matter what, whether this life or another life or whatever it is, eventually going to say, I'm done being miserable, right? I'm done being miserable, and I'm going to go back to the joyful path. No matter what happens, I'm going to keep that joyful path, no matter what my outside conditions are, no matter have money, don't have money, it doesn't matter, because what matters is that I feel a sense of abundance within me. Everything else doesn't matter, because it's going to come up and it's going to go down. Doesn't matter. You can be Jesus, you can be Buddha, you can be whoever is you think of as the supreme, and they have
all those
if they're in this human form, body, mind, soul sort of form, they're going to have they're going to have times that things go really well, things at times that don't go really well, things that have a challenge for them. There's no way out of them. It's just that as you get to higher levels, the challenges are really easy to take care of, because you know to not go off balance. Yeah. Exactly.
You're safe. You're safe within, right? And that's knowing what's really important and cleaning out some of the noise and getting down to your point of, I used to say to my high school students all the time, if it's not fun, don't do it. But if you have to do it, make it fun. Meaning you have to take this quiz, or you don't, and there will be a consequence to that. But be clear on what you're doing, because that choice doesn't bring any more fun.
Not so quick,
right? But if you have to take it, at least don't hate on it. Don't spew hate out into the world and expect to have positive abundance come back. And one of my coach, my such a divine spiritual leader of mine, we talk a lot about the Course of Miracles, and we say all the time, every encounter is a healing encounter divinely seen. And we have to be able to put those things on the table, because some of those encounters are our frustrations. Some of those encounters are the reasons we're not willing to take the leap and be the fool, And it's if we don't put them on the table and be honest about them and talk about them, to your point, whether it's in a month or in another lifetime or in another whatever, these same problems continue to cycle back through. And if we're not paying attention, and if we're not being cognitive, oh, well, that kind of sucks. Oh, well, that's kind of great. And paying attention to what we want more of and what we want less of, and steering our energy in the right direction, we'll keep looping back into that not so great thing, right? And we'll spend all of our energy making it okay.
Like my favorite example of that is boyfriends. Quite honestly, because you have a boyfriend in high school or college or whatever it is, right? And you're like, oh my God, when that's done and whatever went wrong with it, you're like, I'm so glad that that's done. It's not going to happen again. And then you come into the next boyfriend, and then you go, oh my gosh, this is the exact same thing that happened to the last guy. And you're like, what's the thing that's similar here? It's not the guy.
Well, that's it. When people say that, I have clients that I work with who are like, well, I just keep encountering the same thing. I'm like, awesome. That means you already know. Let's deal with that. Let's dig into what is that thing? Why does that thing? What's the benefit of that thing? And it just helps bring forth authenticity, right? Because then you get to say on the first date, here are my non-negotiables. I don't date guys who, and it could, whatever really means something. But that's true of everything that we apply our time and energy to, right? And sometimes, we got to be the fool and just jump in, right? But we also have to know that we've done the work, that we are prepared, that we have a little bit of risk mitigation, that there's a plan B, because we do have to plan on our own lives and we do have to be masters of our destiny, but it doesn't mean we can't keep going, right? If all the other plans aren't exactly right, sometimes you just have to keep choosing.
Exactly. That's actually part of, like, one of the hardest things to do, because it's a moment by moment choice. And sometimes it's much easier to choose sacrifice myself to make sure that this thing happens, right? Whereas sometimes
it's easier if I
let me just
do this.
Let me just slam myself through it, right? No gentleness here. No acceptance of the fact that this is really, you built up an energy that is a negative energy around this space, right? Like, the thing to do is to step back and start building up a positive energy. Like, for example, this is the way that one of my spiritual teachers does his taxes. He says that he starts in February and he says, all right, every day I'm going to just imagine how could my taxes be a beautiful, wonderful event for me to do? How could it be something joyful? So I imagine it being lightweight. I imagine it being easy. I imagine everything being organized. I imagine how lovely it's going to feel when I'm sitting down at my desk with a cup of tea and I'm sitting with numbers and I'm going over what happened last year and I'm thinking good things about what I learned. And he sort of builds this whole picture. He says, by the end of February, March 1st, I'm ready to do my taxes. Like, I get up happy about doing my taxes because he's built this really lovely positive energy around this whole thing. He said, okay, this is how I want to feel. So I'm going to feel it now. And that puts it out for himself to meet himself in the future in that way. Yeah. Right.
I like that. And it's, and it's very practical advice for taxes or anything, right? Like, what does the person who enjoys their taxes look like? What are they doing? What are they thinking, acting, saying? Where are, and it's about, like I always say, like, you have to be willing to see it differently. And if you could see the possibility that people can be happy doing their taxes, let's emulate that. Let's look at how and why and get closer to that before you change a thing. If you want to be the kind of person that goes to the gym on, May 1st, right? Don't go to the gym until then. Start thinking about it, visualizing it, and day by day, what's going to get in your way? What will help it? Who can you bring in along the way to help support it? Because if we can't see it possible, if we can't see ourselves in the doing of the thing, our brains won't buy into it. Again, it goes back to, if we're not creating the message and the image, the universe will get confused, right? Like, if we're not clear on what it is that we actually want, and that means we have to get rid of all the other stuff, which, to go back to the card, I think of, to be that kind of a fool and jump off the cliff following, your divine voice. Oh, it takes practice, it takes experience, right? But it also
takes a lot
comes
of courage.
with criticism.
Takes a lot
often.
of courage.
And it's seeing what a person that jumps off the cliff does and how they act and what they think and how they look, right? So it's not that anyone has to go make any big crazy things today, right? But what does that kind of a person do, and how do we become believe, because I believe we already are these things, right? How do we believe we already are? How do we trust in that?
Practice feeling.
So I
that's the way to do it, is to practice feeling it. So if you want to, we can do a really quick 30-second thing where you just practice feeling. Okay. So, because we can direct our feelings any direction we want to, but we are not in the practice of taking the reins and directing them where we want. So I want you and everyone who's here and joined us, think of something that's going on in your life that you would like to go well, something you're interested in, whether maybe you're concerned about it, maybe even worried about it. So just take a deep breath, let your eyes come down, lower them. You can close them if you want. I don't know where you are, so whatever you're doing, make sure, like, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. Right. Safety first,
don't
right?
Close your eyes.
Exactly.
Safety first, friend.
On the next inhale, take a nice, slow, deep breath. When you get to the top, hold it for 3, 2, 1, and then release it all out. And then I want you to feel, don't try to look for an image, search for the feeling of what it would feel like if this, whatever it is that you're thinking about, turned out perfectly, what would that feel like? Allow that feeling to start to grow in you. Maybe it's just a tiny little seed right now that you're just feeling, just, oh, what would that feel like? Keep building it up. Keep growing it out. Keep expanding it. Maybe even give it a color. If having a color makes it helpful to you to have it expand in your body. Feel it in your heart. Feel it expand into your whole body. That feeling of what would it feel like if this worked out absolutely 100% perfectly. You don't need to figure out how to make that happen or have the vision of what that actually means. It's the feeling is the most important and strongest ability you have to start bringing things in to your path in the way that you want them. So just feel that. And then when you're done, when you're ready, you can open your eyes again. It's just a quick little thing to do anytime you start to feel like you're going off that cliff in terms of getting off balance and starting to worry that things are going to fall apart. This is the thing to do. It changes you. It's all right. I know it does. It changes you. It's a getting that feeling is something that we are so used to not doing on our own. This is a practice. This is like playing piano. This is like doing yoga. It's like it takes try it again. The best time to do it is first thing in the morning or right before you go to bed. First thing in the morning before you go out of bed, right before you go to bed, because those are the sort of like the witching hours where there's like really, it's easier to access those sort of feelings in you and be easier to grow them. And the more you can grow them, the more practice you have, the more you can fill in the spaces in your day with, instead of feeling the negativity or the worry, start feeling more of the, well, what if this worked out perfectly? And allow that beautiful feeling to guide you through the day.
It is a beautiful feeling. And it's such a, it's so fun because it's so attainable. Like it was just right there, right? And this is where we just have to pause and do this. We have to, and having accountability, having partners, having people to say, girl, did you breathe today? Did you do that thing? Right? Because it just happens, and I can say that I'm so grateful that through working with coaches, through my own coaching, through my own personal journey to be my best self, to explore that thing, right? Where as it goes along, I have learned that the morning and the evening times are incredibly important. I used to crank it out, dusk till dawn. No, wait, the other way. Anyway, morning till night, all day, and grind into the evening hours thinking there was some prize because I was working so hard. I was exhausting myself, depleting myself. And when you crank it out all night long, and yes, sometimes I have to, don't get me wrong, but by and large, if I'm cranking it out all day and then I go to bed, no wonder I wasn't sleeping well.
You can't turn it off.
And then all the things in between. So I cannot say enough how important it is to slow down, to find a good healthy sleeping pattern, good rhythm, or at least practices towards that end, and to take it easy in the morning, take it easy at night. And again, it's not a privilege thing. That practice that we just took was a 30-second thing. It's a choice. It's a choice, right? Now, if you have 3 hours to devote to your evening routine, that sounds very privileged and very blessed. And I'm grateful to anyone who can take the time to do that. But they've also made choices that have gotten them there, right? And we have to make the best choice we can with what we have. And if what we have is 30 seconds, you have just demonstrated, like I feel bouncy now, like you've just demonstrated how that's effective.
And we all have ability. There's no person in this world who doesn't have this ability, right? This is an ability that you have from being human, from just being human.
And it's the one that they don't want us to know. It's the one that gives us authority to speak out loud, to speak our truth, to move with authenticity, to buck the system, to step outside and say, but what if, or could it be possible? And I think it's really important that we keep saying it's so important to get into that voice and to know it. And the world won't stop, right? But all the noise and all the voices are telling us to just fall in line and don't jump off that cliff. Literally, like it's like the biggest cliche, don't jump off a cliff or anything.
Emotional cliff,
right? So
Right.
number one, don't
Yeah.
jump off any dangerous cliffs, people. This is not literal, like, unless you are harnessed and like
Again, safety first,
please.
as you said.
But in this way, I think it's great to try new things. And sometimes the trying new things is not doing the dishes in a day, right? Sometimes it's starting a business. Sometimes it's being vulnerable and getting on Instagram Live and,
exactly.
You know, seeing
Here's
how
the thing.
it goes.
If you spend time doing the things that inspire you, that really truly inspire you, so important. Inspiration is not a luxury. It is such a necessity. And if you do even like 5 minutes of something that inspires you, you turn around and things like the dishes don't bother you anymore because you're like, oh, that's just part of what I need to get to the next part of this beautiful inspiration. So don't put your inspiration to the side. It's so easy. I've done this time. I just go, oh, I'll do the business part first, right? And then I'll do the inspiration. And then I never get to the inspiration. I'm like, I'm reversing.
It's definitely a tough balance in a business world like you and I have to manage the business hardcore and then the creative inspiration stuff. So how do you do it, right? Other than stopping doing breathing and I don't envisioning like perfect.
Envision. I do the feeling.
What do you do?
I allow the visions to
feeling.
come.
Sorry.
Because they'll come, right? If you're in the right state, if you're in a calm, balanced state, if you're bringing an inner harmony to your inner state, the vision, the answer of what to do next is going to come. What's the thing that feels right? And I don't mean right as in right and wrong. It means feels right to you, right? To your inner self. So the thing that one of the things that's helped me a lot, and I know you and I have talked about this before, is the idea of and the practice of rhythmic alteration, right? It is that you have the sympathetic and then you have the parasympathetic, right? You have the nervous system that goes and gets stuff done, and then you have the nervous system that rests and relaxes. And if you only use one of those, you're going to run yourself ragged. You're going to go into the spinning. And
as in the story I told you before about the girl who never slept.
Exactly.
That one. That was me.
Just to be clear. That girl who said, who needs to sleep? I got stuff to do. So the idea is that you feel when it is time for you to stop doing whatever it is that you're doing. There's nothing, there are very few things that anybody can do for hours and hours at a time without needing a real break. And I'm not just talking of 5 minutes or go to the bathroom or get some coffee. No, this is when is it? And so what you do is you set things up so you can go from one to the next in a nice rhythmic way. For example, I might start on something at, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning, right? And somewhere around 8:40, I'm like, oh my God, I really need a break from this for a little while. And then I say, okay, what's something that I can do right now that would help my life, right? That I'm inspired to do, I'm feeling energy to do. That's going to take this time. So I'll go, oh, you know what? It'd be nice if I cleaned up this room and this was a little bit more orderly. By the time I'm done with that, by the time I'm ready to come back to doing something else, and maybe I come back to what I started on, maybe I don't, but I'm constantly asking the question of my own inner guidance, my own higher guidance. And the way to keep in touch with that and keep with that is to always try to maintain your calm and your balance. If you've gone off balance, the answer you're going to get is going to be equally and similarly off balance. Yes.
Right. Haywire, right? Again, the universe gets confused. And if the universe is our guide and our brains have all this manipulation and influence going on, it's hard when we sit down to do a whole day of work.
Yeah.
That's hard, But when we look at it in the parts and pieces, it's so much easier to focus and track our brains. And I use a Pomodoro timer, 25 minutes with a focused. I do the thing, like I put everything else away. I just focus on email responses or writing this content or whatever the focus is. And then there's a 5-minute break, and I have a list of ideas of what I can do in that 5 minutes, none of which can apply to work, business related things, right? I can tidy up a room similarly. Sometimes it makes me feel great to put order to things like that, but it's walk outside. There's always got to be extra hydration, but it's shifting and breathing and moving my body a little bit so that when I come back for my next 25-minute set, I know what I have to do. And all my brain has to think, worry, and feel is, girl,
Absolutely.
you can do anything for 25 minutes, right? And then you're going to get a reward, you're going to get a break, and you have fun, happy things to do in the middle. And it has been a game changer, right? From our conversation in December when you gave me permission, reference some of our old lives, to sleep. So she was like, oh my God, if you are tired, sleep, rest when you want to rest. And I was like, oh, well, that's so interesting.
Who thinks that
you know,
they could do that? Not very many people, right?
Not very many people. And it sounds so obvious, right? But friends who are listening, rest when you want to rest. And that means you have to make good use of your time and all that stuff. Yes, but like, you know, get your stuff done. I'm not saying sleep all day, but sleep for 25 minutes. Sometimes that is one of my things, but I choose it. And I know that by blocking and chunking a little bit of my day, I'm only requiring so much of my prefrontal cortex to think and plan and process.
That's nice.
And it has made me less tired all around, you know, so
absolutely
all practical magic here, my friends.
And it does exactly what it's here to do.
Magic. I know. And I'm so grateful that we get to.
It's a lot of fun. I hope everyone has had fun chatting with us or being with us. We'll do it again in 2 weeks. And we'll keep figuring out what more we're doing with this. We're just winging it for now.
But I just kind of like, I forget sometimes that we are recording these conversations because it's just, I want to have this chat all day long, right? I want to have this talk with anybody that wants to listen, because we can do big things like just in our brains. Like what we just did there, that 30-second experience, that just happened. Yes, in communion between two people, you shared that with me.
Yeah, it did.
But like it all happened right here. I didn't need anything. I didn't need any money. I didn't need any extra time. I just needed to be willing and to go
in that direction. Because like you can understand it, you can like it, you can follow it, you can, you know, believe in it, you can think that it's the right direction, but if you don't actually do something, if you don't actually bring a different energy into you, it's not going to bring a different energy into your life, right? It's just going to be an intellectual exercise. And this is not the tarot that I work with is not an intellectual exercise. It is all about helping you in the practical world use the tools to bring more of the spiritual world into the practical and the practical into the spiritual, right? How to be able to navigate them both together.
Yeah. Wow.
Awesome. Yeah, me too.
I feel great.
I hope everybody else does.
Hope you do. Yes, thank you everyone for joining us. It's always such a treat to see some friends and new faces pop up in the little feed thing. And it's always such a gift to spend time with you, Lisa. You really just, I mean, I think you just bring so much out in me. I feel like I open my door and I'm like, whatever you need.
You're amazing.
You know, like, but you get me so well. You get me so well. And I appreciate very much you sharing your gift with me and with all of our listeners.
I love being here with you. I love hearing what you have to say. It's always fascinating. It's lovely. So we will see you in 2 weeks, my love. Okay. 2
weeks. Wonderful. Take care and make it a great day, everyone.